We begin today's episode not with breaking news or analysis, but with something more personal, and something that speaks to the nature of transitions, both on and off the field. Roughly a week ago, I shared that May 23rd would be my last day covering this team full-time. That was true, mostly. Then something unexpected happened. A quiet brunch turned into a surprising offer. When I returned from my wedding and honeymoon in mid-June, would I be open to filming content from home, from my kitchen, for another 4 to 5 weeks? That offer made sense. It gives this community one more month together. It allows for more stories, more insight, more connection while the search continues for who steps in next. So here's what happens. I'll be off the grid starting around May 28th. For 3 weeks, it's wedding bells and white sand. Then I'll be back, coffee mug in hand, camera pointed at the stove, diving into Falcons football one more time before the final curtain closes. Not just rumors. This is about identity. Now let's pivot to what really matters today, because this episode isn't about the usual speculation, not about quarterback chatter or free agent leftovers. This is about identity, about the DNA of the 2025 Atlanta Falcons, and how this defense in particular is undergoing a profound, intentional shift. If you want to understand where defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich is headed, you have to start with the decisions made by Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris this offseason. Look at who left, look at who arrived, and one thing becomes obvious. From heavyweight to hybrid, let's talk mass, or rather the lack of it. In years past, this defense featured names like Eddie Goldman, anchoring the interior at 325 pounds. In 2025, not a single notable addition north of 250. That's not a coincidence. That's a philosophical change. This front office is turning the page away from the traditional mold of big-bodied run-stoppers and toward something sleeker, faster, more modern. In short, Atlanta's defense is trading size for speed, and with that comes a trade-off. The good, the risk, and the bigger picture. Let's start with what this shift gets you. Versatility, agility, coverage options. Smaller, quicker defenders can stick with backs and tight ends in space. They're better equipped for sideline-to-sideline football, the kind that defines today's passing attacks. But the downside? You lose some bite at the point of attack. Removing a 325-pound tackle from the lineup means fewer blockers getting consumed. That means linebackers have to fight harder to stay clean, and that could spell trouble against physical, run-heavy teams. David Onyemata still holds it down in the middle, but outside of him, it's slim pickings in terms of natural run stuffers. This is not a mistake. This is a bet. A bold gamble in a league that copies success. The NFL is a copycat league, always has been. Someone tries something new, and if it works, everyone follows. In 2025, Atlanta might be one of the first to say this out loud. Go ahead, run the ball. We'll give you that, but you will not beat us through the air. That's not just bold, that's revolutionary. It's a 180 from a century of football logic that prized stuffing the run and stopping the bleeding up front. What Atlanta is building is a pass-centric defense, one that dares opponents to win the slow way, one that refuses to be gashed in space. If it works, it'll be copied. If it doesn't, it'll be scrutinized. But it's brave. And in today's NFL, brave sometimes gets you ahead. What you're about to hear isn't just football talk. It's not surface-level stat chasing or box score boasting. This is the story of a philosophical shift, not just for the Falcons, but for teams across the NFL. And it starts with a coach who isn't even in Atlanta. Ben Johnson, the new head coach of the Chicago Bears and the former architect of the Detroit Lions' explosive offense, said something recently that should catch every football fan's ear. It wasn't bluster or a motivational cliche, it was math. Cold, calculated math. Ben Johnson's bold statement. In an interview cited by Josh Kendall of The Athletic, Johnson made something startlingly clear. Based on our analytics, the team with the higher passing EPA at the end of a game wins over 80% of the time. That number stopped me in my tracks. Not time of possession, not turnovers, not rushing yards. Passing EPA. That's the factor most closely tied to winning. So what is EPA and why does it matter? Breaking down the metric that's changing, the NFL EPA stands for expected points added. It sounds complicated, but it's really just about value. How much each play helps or hurts your team's chance to score. Let's say you start a drive with 1st and 10 on your own 30-yard line. Statistically, you're expected to score about 1 point on that possession. Maybe you punt, maybe you kick a field goal, maybe you score a touchdown. But over a large sample size, that situation averages out to 1 point. Now imagine your quarterback completes a 20-yard pass on 1st down. The new situation might have an EPA of 2. That means that play added 1 expected point to your team's chances of scoring. That's EPA. It's football's version of context. Why traditional stats don't tell the full story. Let's put this in human terms, with a story. Imagine 2 running backs, me and a teammate named Reed. We both finish a game with 5 carries, 50 yards, and 1 touchdown. Looks identical, right? But here's what you don't see in the box score. Reed had 4 carries from the 1-yard line. He got stuffed 3 times and finally scored on the 4th. His 5th carry? A 49-yard scamper late in a blowout. Me. I ran all 5 times on 3rd and 5, converted every single one. One of them went for a touchdown. Same stats on paper, but on the field, very different impacts. That's what EPA captures, impact in context. Why it matters for the Falcons in 2025. Now let's bring this back to Atlanta. When you realize that passing EPA correlates to winning more than 80% of the time, you understand why this defense is being built the way it is. Lighter, faster, built to disrupt the pass. They're not chasing sacks. They're chasing stops, disruptions, breakups, turnovers. Jeff Ulbrich and Raheem Morris aren't playing by the old rules anymore. They're trying to win by the new math. And if EPA is the new quarterback rating, Atlanta wants to be ahead of the curve, not behind it. That's why this matters. Because if you're not building your roster with this kind of thinking, you're already behind. Let's pick up where we left off. On a football field, somewhere between math and mayhem. 2nd and 10 from the Tampa Bay 49-yard line. Not exactly a scoring opportunity, but not far off either. The expected points for a team in that spot? About 2.5. Meaning, if you simulate that moment 100 times, the average outcome is somewhere between a field goal and a stalled drive. Then came Kyle Pitts. You might remember the play. Pitts catches the ball, turns upfield, and as he crosses the goal line, he starts to celebrate. Showboating? Maybe. But it was a touchdown nonetheless. From an EPA standpoint, here's what just happened. Atlanta was expected to walk away with 2.5 points. Instead, Pitts gave them 6. So his expected points added on that one play was plus 3.5. A single play, one moment added the equivalent of more than a field goal to the Falcons' projection. That's EPA in action. Why not all touchdowns are created equal? This is where EPA becomes more than a spreadsheet. It's context. A 10-yard run might look identical in the box score, but EPA asks the right question. When did that 10-yard run happen? Was it 4th and 7 to extend a drive, or was it 2nd and 20 just getting your team back to where it started? Same thing with touchdowns. A 70-yard score on 3rd and 20 from your own 5-yard line carries a mountain of value. Score from the opponent's 10-yard line on 1st down? Great, but expected. EPA brings that distinction into the light. It's not about the play, it's about the moment in which it happened. And for a defense, that changes everything. A defensive coach has a revelation. Jeff Ulbrich, Atlanta's defensive coordinator, recently shared something honest and, frankly, a little vulnerable. It's such a huge shift in how football's ever been approached. I was classically taught that you stop the run first, but over the last 10 years, I've had to evolve. In the old NFL, stopping the run was the bedrock of a great defense. Today, the numbers and coaches like Ben Johnson say otherwise. Passing EPA wins games, so teams are adapting fast. Atlanta under Ulbrich and head coach Raheem Morris is joining that evolution. The the catch. What happens when you stop stopping the run? There's a cost to this shift. If you're committing your resources, speed, scheme, personnel, to limiting explosive passing plays, you're going to take a hit against the run. And that's okay, to a point. But Ulbrich and Morris have to make a promise to themselves, to their team, and frankly, to the fans. Don't be bottom five in run defense. Use any metric you like: yards per carry, rushing success rate, run defense EPA. Doesn't matter. Just don't finish 28th, 29th, or 32nd. You can live with being 22nd, you can scheme around the 24th, but if you're a doormat on the ground, everything else breaks. Why? Because stopping the run still matters on early downs. If you're giving up 5 yards on 1st and 10, you'll never get to 3rd and long. And that means your pass rushers, guys like James Pierce Jr. and Jalen Walker, never get to do what they were drafted to do: pin their ears back and hunt quarterbacks. It's simple. If teams don't fear your run defense, they'll never give you the chance to unleash your pass rush. The final word. So what's the confidence level in this new-look Atlanta defense? If I'm being honest, I'd put it at 6.6 out of 10. There's a lot to be intrigued by: the speed, the scheme, the vision. But football is still a show-me game. Let me see it first. Let me see them stop the run just enough. Let me see them get to 3rd and long consistently. If they do, then this defense could be something different, something built for the modern NFL.